A lot of people know me as June July. I'm a photographer in Nairobi, Kenya. More importantly, I'm a woman photographer in Nairobi, Kenya. A very proud woman photographer. I'm driven by a lot of passions. I have a passion for photography, obviously. I have a passion for cars. I have a passion for outdoor activities. I have a passion for food. And more importantly, I just like capturing life through a lens.
When did you start and what inspired you to become a photographer?
So you know what's funny is I actually at first thought I didn't want to be a photographer. I thought I wanted to be a makeup artist. So when I was around 17, I would read like Vogue magazines, all the different fashion magazines. I'd go through the pages, and when I was looking at the photos, I thought it was the makeup that was striking to me. So I then found out, you know what, it's not even the makeup at all, it's the photography. It's the way they've been captured, it's the creativity, all of those different aspects are what drew me to photography. So I got an internship with a makeup artist, Mudhoni Njomba, she's fantastic. I got an internship with her, and now I started going for different photo shoots because she's a makeup artist, so I would be on different sets. And that's actually how I ended up getting the name June July around that period, and that's what defined the brand. But once now I started going on set and seeing how photographers are operating and all of that, it was just so attractive to me. So I convinced my parents to get me my first camera. They did. And because I had just started university, I did what almost every other photographer does. You call a friend, you know, you call a family member, hi, let me take a few photos of you, because you need people to practice on. And people were willing and happy, and I loved it. And that's how my craft began to grow.
So far, how would you describe the photography industry in Kenya? How is it? Is it something you would recommend to someone?
I would definitely recommend the photography industry to someone. Right now, we have an influx of creatives in different sectors, by the way. Our creative industry is growing as a whole, and it's really, really beautiful. A lot of us are also taking photography a lot more seriously as something someone can do as their bread and butter, as their main job. Because I think if you remember as well, in the olden times, photography was looked at as to kupiga picha, you know, and it wasn't as respected as a craft as it is now. And that's something that I think is quite inspiring. So I would definitely recommend photography to someone right now.
Apart from referrals, which you've mentioned,
Yes.
How else do you get clients?
Social media has played a big role, especially in recent times. Social media is a way I get quite a bit of clients. I am able to get, Instagram has been a great platform, Facebook has been a great platform. Word of mouth is always great, so referrals. And as well, there are people who contact me just in traditional methods. Pick up the phone, find your number, give you a call. And so, but social media has been also another great way that people have been able to reach out to me. Yes.
Talking of social media,
Yes.
something happened to you recently.
Yes.
I understand you were conned.
Yes, I was. It's an emotional story, but nonetheless, I received a message. So typically, my work line and my private line are the same line. So a client reached out to me, sent me a screenshot from my photography page, and told me they're interested in a shoot. This was on Sunday evening, and typically I don't like to talk to clients after 5 p.m. because I just like to observe a little bit of privacy now for myself past that time. But she reached out, and for whatever reason, I obliged and I had a conversation with her. So she sends me a screenshot. She's like, oh, you know, hi, my name is Janet. You know, I'm interested in a photo shoot. Shows me a picture similar to what she's trying to achieve. I would like a shoot. I know it's a little bit last minute, but I'd like a shoot tomorrow. I as well prefer to take my Mondays off because, you know, photography is also, we shoot a lot of events, and so typically your weekend is a working weekend. And so there's not a lot of downtime. Monday is usually a nice day. I like to recoup back and just get some quiet time. So that particular Monday I said, you know what, maybe I don't think I wouldn't want to lose a work opportunity. So let me oblige her and have this shoot, because she had asked for a shoot the next day. I asked her, okay, let me share with you studio information, you know, and all of that. The conversation on the Sunday evening was very brief. We didn't have a lengthy conversation. I mentioned to her, thank you for your query, you know, I'll give you a call the next morning just to arrange the logistics of the shoot and what you'd like. So I did exactly that. She did not pick up my call. She sent me a message telling me she's in a meeting. And so, which is not uncommon or baffling. I mean, that happens to everyone all the time.
No, this is Monday morning.
This is Monday morning. So she sends me a text message, you know, just saying she's in a meeting. I'm like, okay, understandable. So we're now chatting on text and WhatsApp, alternating between the two. So she mentions to me what she'd like from the shoot. I then tell her, okay, this is okay. She says she'd like to shoot at her home. I ask her where her home is, which I always typically do. Then I also share with her my terms of payment. My terms of payment are usually 70-30. Not are usually, are 70-30. And so she needed to secure a 70% deposit before we go ahead with the shoot. It helps with planning, it helps with the logistics, it also lets me know that you're a serious client. And so she then tells me that she's had an unfortunate incident that happened to her the previous week with a photographer. Proceeds to send me screenshots of an entire Facebook thread and how a photographer unfortunately conned her, and she had a photo shoot the previous week and the photographer didn't show up, and just essentially a sob story that I buy into, unfortunately. And because I have that sympathy, I then tell her, okay, this is not typical for me, but I'll waive my terms of payment. What you can do is you can settle, because she mentioned that her husband is uncomfortable with settling the payment because of the ordeal that had happened to her the previous week. So I tell her, I understand that, but as well for myself also to come and offer my services, I can't come for free. I'm very sorry, but I can't come for free. So I tell her, what you can do is cater for transport and equipment. Once I get to the shoot, you will be required to pay the balance of the shoot. Not before we start, but just in the course of the shoot. So once the shoot is done, you will be, before I leave, essentially, I will need my payment. And so she agrees to those terms. She sends me a 30% deposit that the husband, I will say husband in quotes because, you know, he sends a payment on M-Pesa. And so none of this has necessarily hit any red flags for me to this point. I find her story to be sympathetic. I'm sympathetic to her situation. And so till up to that point, I'm a little bit hesitant, but nothing completely off-putting that I would think to myself, this is not a job I would take. The problem then arises when I ask her about directions to her home, because again, she preferred to not do a studio shoot, she preferred to do a home shoot. Not uncommon, because some clients would prefer to have their shoot at home. Typically, we usually have a lot more planning time, so I would essentially be able to know what the home looks like, where would be potential locations that we could shoot in within the home. But because it was so last minute, unfortunately, my due diligence was not as high as it should have been. And so I ask her for the directions, she sends me a pin. I look at the pin isn't completely accurate, at least to my knowledge, because it was pinning to a generalized area. I don't know the area very well, so I also say perhaps there's a house there, and you know, Google Maps, so I'm like, perhaps there's a house there and it's just me who's not knowing how to navigate this accurately. We had set out our shoot for 3 p.m, so at 2 p.m. I head over for the shoot. I call a cab. So this is South B.
South B?
Yes, here in Nairobi. So the shoot is supposed to be in South B. I go, I ask her, as I'm approaching, as the pin, because I was in an Uber, as we're approaching the location of the shoot, like I said, it was generalized. So I give her a call and I say, what's a landmark? What can I see? You know, can you send me a live location so that I can get to know exactly where you are? She then recommends coming to Sana Sana, which is a shopping complex in South B. So she recommends coming there. From the conversation I was having then, I was a little bit frustrated because I could tell that she's not able to give directions very clearly. It was just a little bit frustrating because I'm in a cab and I'm trying to navigate as well with the driver. I was just a little bit frustrated. And so as we get to Sana Sana, I see her now in front of me, just next to a Boda guy. And so she tells me, oh, hi, please follow me. So this then, yes, so I'm in the Uber. She's now hopped onto a Boda. And I think to myself, this is a little bit strange. This is when now my instincts were starting to check in, because I'm like, this is very, very strange. Are you just really bad at directions, or is this, what is going on? I can't pinpoint what's going on, but I'm like, this is strange. I follow her, we follow each other to an apartment complex not far off, honestly less than a kilometer away from Sana Sana shopping complex. We get to the apartment. There's about, perhaps, let's say, a couple of apartments surrounding the area. So we get into the apartment. I look and I get into the apartment. She then tells me, okay, let's go up. So we go up, and as I'm looking around, it's not my essentially typical client, but I didn't want that to affect how I interacted with her. So we get to the apartment, and I see that she was eating. So I now think to myself, maybe she left eating to come and pick me up or something. Again, until this point, the only thing that's confusing me is the direction aspect of things. So I get into the apartment, we're in the living room. It's her and myself. She had mentioned that there would be a nanny there. There would be a house manager around. And so I assume that she's in the kitchen, because the kitchen is a bit far from the living room. I can't see it. And so we're sitting there. She's like any African, in any African home, she's like, karibu chakula. Yes. I typically don't eat at clients' homes, unless, of course, I know them personally. Then I would feel comfortable and it would not be a problem. But again, this is a stranger. It also helped that I also don't go to shoots hungry. As a rule of thumb, as a photographer, your days can be very long, and so I typically don't go to a shoot hungry. And so I wasn't in the mood to eat, so all I did is ask her for some water. I said, no, thank you, but please, some water would be good.
Alikupatia chakula gani?
So she was eating ugali. She was eating ugali, and she was eating it with scrambled eggs. Okay. So a combo that I'm not a fan of, but that's to each their own. So as she was eating, I mean, typically it's not something I would enjoy eating. So I said, honestly, no, thank you, I'm okay. And so I just said, please give me a glass of water. She pours a glass of soda into a glass that was on the table. So there was a tray. It was her food. What she was eating. She had also offered me some food as well. She went ahead as to bring food for me to eat from the kitchen. And so she brought additional and a plate and all of that. And that's when she brought the glasses and the soda. And so she brought all of that. Then she proceeds to pour me the soda. She's like, are you sure you don't want to eat anything? Please eat something. I say no. And so I'm drinking the water. Once she poured the soda, I noticed that there was something, you know how a soda fizzes at the top and then it dies down. So there was I can only describe it as like a film settling on top of the soda, which was looking very strange. And I said, no. This is very weird. I'm not going to take that. So I sipped my water. I drank about half a glass of water in the duration of time I was there. Another thing to note is now as well, in the middle of all of this, our shoot is supposed to essentially have started. And so I'm as well getting antsy in terms of time. So I motioned to her, I'm like, perhaps you should be getting ready, because we do need to get ahead with the shoot and get started. And so she actually stands up and goes and takes a shower. So once she comes out of the bathroom, she goes, she changes. Then I noticed something extremely odd. She changes back into the same exact clothes. I'm like, that's quite odd. Why would you change back into exactly what you are wearing, And so once she does that, I'm like, there's something strange going on here. Very, very strange. But for whatever reason, I'm still giving this lady benefit of doubt. And I for the life of me, I can't tell you why. So again, I motion again the time issue. I actually start setting up so that she can see that, we need to get this started, because she booked me for a 1-hour session. It is now 4 o'clock. By the time we get started with this shoot, it's going to be 5 o'clock. So it's going to be a problem. In the middle of all of that happening, I remember asking her, trying to get to know her, because I didn't know this client, why she's wanting to do the shoot. And she gave me an entire narrative of who she is and her husband, and why she feels like, it's important to take these photos for her. She's not been feeling great, she's been feeling low. And that's something that struck a chord with me, because that's the importance of my photography. It's to speak to women, it's to make them feel valued, to make them feel great, to have photos that raise their self-esteem. That's important to me. So I think that struck a chord with me, and that's why I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. I as well asked about my payment. I was like, are we still okay for the payment after? She said, it's not a problem at all. I'll get you your payment immediately we're done with the shoot. So that essentially gave me a sense of false hope and reassurance.
So at this point, this lady is playing with your emotions.
At this point, this lady is, well, yes.
But you had not realized it.
I had not realized it then.
Okay.
She then tells me, I actually ordered some flowers that I would like for us to use for this photo shoot. And so there's a rider who's coming. I say, all right, not a problem. And so she stands up and heads towards the door. So she's like, oh, let's go together. And I find that quite strange, because we literally have everything delivered to our doors these days. You really don't need to go all the way, down. I just found it strange. And so I think to myself, I was thinking like an African, I guess. I was like, maybe she feels uncomfortable. I am a stranger in her home. Perhaps she as well is feeling a sense of uncomfortability in leaving me here by myself, while she's out of the house, or whatever the case is. So we get out together. She locks the door, and we head towards, there was a certain road we were heading towards, about 500 meters from the apartment, not too far. She then gives me her key, the house key, which I find strange, but what I hadn't realized at this point is as well, I think my thinking was altered, because my water was unfortunately drugged. And so I feel like the drugs had already set in, because my thinking wasn't very clear. So she gives me the keys, and then she literally hands me the keys. Then she's like, the rider is right around the corner. Let me just quickly get the flowers. I'll be right back. So she goes. I stand there. Honestly, I'm just standing now in the middle of the road, which is, to me, it felt like I was there for about 10 minutes, which was a very long time. Yes. I was there I think I was just there for 5 minutes, but it felt longer. It felt a lot longer. So when now the 5-minute mark hits, I'm like, where is this lady and what is going on? I pick up my phone and call the number that we've been talking on, and that number is not working. It's Mteja. I say, what is happening? I think how I ended up even waiting a little bit longer than I expected is a friend of mine passed by. She lives in the area, and so we just bumped into each other just off of coincidence. Had a bit of banter, caught up, and then I said, I actually have a shoot, what is going on? Let me call my client and find out where she is. That's when I called her, and she wasn't responsive. I quickly say, whatever is going on here is not okay. I need to rush back to the apartment right now. As I start walking towards the apartment, I can only equate it as like looking like a drunk, like a really bad drunk, because my coordination was terrible. I was swaying to the right and left. I was woozy. I was dizzy. It felt like I was going to pass out, but it had not gotten there. So I start walking very shakily back towards the apartment. I get there. I open the door. So I go to unlock the apartment. And as I realized that the apartment is not locked. Now, as we were coming out, I thought she had locked the apartment. So when I'm coming back in and the apartment isn't locked, I'm in a panic. I open the door and I dash straight for my camera bag. I go and open my bag and it's completely empty. So I'm like, no. What's going on here? What's going on? Sorry.
It's okay.
I think to myself, I need to find my things. Where are they in this apartment? Where are they? The entire time I had only sat in the living room. So I had no idea what any section of the apartment looked like. I start going through. I go to the bedroom. I realize I open the cupboards and see only, I think, a duvet, a blanket, something for bedding. And I say, oh no, this is an Airbnb, nobody lives here. because there's a way you can tell when it's not a home that's lived in. You can just tell. I go to the kitchen, all I see is the ugali she was offering me. The fridge is completely empty. So I'm like, no, this is an Airbnb. This is not a home. So I get out of the door and I find two ladies just walking, I guess neighbors, whoever it was. I motion them, I'm like, hi, please, I've been robbed. Do you know who lives in this apartment? They say, who lives in this apartment? This is an Airbnb. I say, no. I'm like, where's a caretaker? Who can I speak to? So they motioned me towards the caretaker. He was actually on the same floor, coincidentally, as I was looking for him. I motioned him. I'm like, what is going on? Who lives in this apartment? Who got this apartment? He tells me that it was hired and, you know, a gentleman and a lady paid for it about an hour ago. I say, what? Because then everything is just, but again, remember that I've been drugged. And so now even my words are mumbling out. I'm not exactly coherent. I'm not speaking properly. I say, please show me the CCTV. I need to see what is going on here. I was then taken to where the CCTV is. I'm shown what was happening, and I noticed that when we left to go and get the supposed flowers, a gentleman then walked into the apartment and took all the things. And so I see a gentleman leaving the apartment complex with a shopping bag, a very basic shopping bag, definitely carrying my camera and all the other things that were in there, and my lenses and all of that. So that happened. I was able to call the friends that I had bumped into. They came. She actually came with her sisters, who's thankfully a nurse, because I was in no state. They had to like hold me up because I had now gotten to the point where I couldn't stand upright. So they were holding me, and you know, one arm so that I can stand up straight. They then, you know, took me back to the apartment, tried to get me together. I got rid of the clothes I was wearing because drugs these days can be sprayed, can be ingested. It could have been transferred in any way. Thankfully, a family member came, picked me up, my sister, took me to hospital where they now flushed out all the toxins in my system. So the total of everything that was stolen is 350,000. This includes the camera. I had 2 lenses with me that day. I had a light with me. I had an iPhone that was stolen, that was in my bag. I reported the matter about a day after the ordeal. I reported it not the day after, the following day. The case is still ongoing. The gentleman in question, so the gentleman who sent me M-Pesa is being tracked. He's changed his number several times. And so the investigation, they're now trying to track the number he's supposedly using now. It's unfortunate that they haven't been caught up until this moment. But I'm hopeful that even coming out this story will aid in helping that.
And how did these people book the Airbnb? Did they pay in cash? Did they do?
They did. So this is what I found out. I came to find out that they booked through a guard, which I found very strange.
A guard?
Yes, one of the guards at the apartment. They booked it through a guard. And so the guard basically called the owner of the Airbnb and said, I have 2 people who are looking for an apartment. Can they use, you know, can they hire yours essentially? Can they stay in your Airbnb? The owner okayed it, and they paid their cash and booked the apartment.
They paid
They paid in cash.
Do you feel like these are people who have been targeting you? Do you feel like these are people who knew what you had, the kind of equipment you had?
I think as well in the era of social media, because we use our work to market our work. So I will potentially show what camera I'm using when I'm doing a shoot for a client, because that's how I'm able to get my work. My clients see my work, and that's how they book me for it. I can never definitively say that it was calculated because I still don't know, but a large part of me thinks it was. I don't think I would ever be able to forget that face. Because remember, I spent quite a bit of time with this lady. And I think that's one of the things as well that was really, that hurt in a certain way. She was so young and fed me such a sympathetic story. It was just unfortunate. She's a young lady. And I would be able to tell that face if I saw it today. It has been difficult because it has. I am a person who's very passionate about photography. I got into photography very young. I always say that I'm one of those lucky few that knew exactly what they want to do for the rest of their lives very young. Not a lot of people have that kind of clarity sometimes. And it was the first time in my life that I contemplated quitting photography and maybe pursuing other passions. Quitting photography for me is not an option.
It's not an option, right?
No.
What have you learned from these experiences that you had?
Do your due diligence. I can't stress it enough. I try not to be too hard on myself for the decisions I made that day, which has not been easy.
Yeah.
But I will motion to every photographer, every creative out there. If your instincts, even if you've had a conversation with a client to whatever degree, but just trust your instincts. I'm in the process of changing the way in which clients reach out to me, which is a difficult process because you want to be accessible to your client.
Yeah.
In terms of it should be easy for you to get in touch with me if you'd like to book my services.
Where do you see yourself in the next few years?
I'm excited for what's to come. In the next couple of years, I see myself having a space that's comfortable for women to come, have photo shoots. I want to see myself as a published artist. I as well sell my photography as art. And so that's something I'm really passionate about. And so June, July, the artist is someone I would love to hear on people's lips, see my artwork in their homes. That's something I'm interested in doing in the next couple of years.